This week on the Aviators, she may have been born without arms, but this extraordinary pilot has managed to earn her wings by flying with her feet. Meet Jessica Cox. Then stay tuned for another milestone as we profile the first aircraft designed specifically for aerobatics, the Pit Special. From its earliest days, aviation has always been a story of human beings shattering the limits of what's considered to be possible. Whether defying gravity by unlocking the secret of heavier-than-air flight, redefining the possibilities of aerodynamics, or pushing past the very limits of planet Earth. Time and time again, what is deemed to be impossible has proven to be anything but. Since first recognizing an interest in aviation, Jessica Cox has helped to redefine what it means to be a pilot, or more precisely, what is physically required of an individual in order to become a pilot.
My interest in aviation started at a Rotary Club meeting. I was speaking there, as I normally do at most events, and a fighter pilot came up to me and he asked if I wanted to go flying in a single-engine airplane. And I'd never been in a small airplane in my entire life, but when he asked me that question, I wasn't certain if I wanted to take up this opportunity. But my dad was with me and he encouraged me. He thought it'd be great. He's an aviation enthusiast. And so I went hesitantly to the airport, went up on my first flight, and I remember having my right foot on the yoke. And once I experienced that, I was hooked. I wanted to become a pilot.
Due to a rare birth defect, Jessica was born without arms. Instead of viewing this as a limitation, however, she's managed to achieve more than most people even dream of through the use of her most versatile assets, her feet.
Since day one, this is all I've ever known. I was born without the arms, without the hands, so my brain became wired to my feet, and they connected with them as my way to explore the world. And so, as I progressed through the years, learning to write, eat, take care of myself, it was all done with my feet. And when it came to flying an airplane, there was gonna be no question about it. I would use my feet on the controls, similar to how other pilots use their hands on the controls.
Given that the vast majority of aircraft have been designed to be operated by pilots with their hands and their feet, the first step in Jessica's journey was finding an airplane suitable for a pilot to operate with the use of just two limbs.
The only airplane that would work and could be flown with two limbs, as far as I know, is called the air coupe airplane. And many paraplegics have successfully flown this airplane. It does not have rudder pedals. It's two less controls than most other airplanes. So with my right foot on the yoke, my left foot on the throttle, I can manage the controls just fine.
Even though the air coupe enables a pilot to fly with just two limbs, the limited space in the cockpit made it difficult for Jessica to have her legs fully extended, so her best option was to have her legs crisscrossed. And so when Jessica flies, she does so with her right foot on the yoke and her left foot on the throttle. Naturally, there are going to be some challenges for any pilot when learning to fly, and Jessica's story is no different. Like many pilots, one of the biggest challenges for Jessica arose when it came time to learn how to land her airplane.
It is a very awkward position to use your feet to pull a yoke towards your core. And that required a lot of core muscle. And because of the awkward positioning, I had to adapt a way in which my body could safely pull back on that yoke, because it is critical upon landing. And I will tell you, as awkward as it was at first, I just kept practicing at it and getting a better grip and also better leverage. And with more practice, I was better able to handle that yoke.
It was an arduous process for Jessica, who had to go through 3 Aircoup airplanes and 3 flight instructors before finally finding the right fit to realize her potential. But in the end, her persistence more than paid off, as 2011 saw her become the world's first armless pilot to obtain a pilot certificate.
The first time I flew an airplane solo, which was my solo flight, about 30 flight training hours in, I will never forget that feeling of being able to take off and land an airplane all by myself, without my instructor beside me, with me at the controls, no special modifications, just handling this airplane with my feet. It was the most incredible sense of independence and empowerment. I can't really top it.
It's essential to maintain good records and an accurate logbook. As you go through your training, you're gonna be able to look in your logbook and say, hey, last week we worked on landing, so this week, let's work on some ground reference maneuvers, and help you and your flight instructor really stay on track. A reason to keep good records is that as you go up for your check ride, as you go up for an interview, they're gonna look through your records, they're gonna look through your logbook and check it, make sure that everything matches up. If they're a little sloppy, if they're mishandled, if they're out of date, if they're out of order, anything like that, they're not gonna be very happy with you, and they might even take another candidate instead of you for that job. So always remember to maintain current records and an accurate logbook for the best possible career that you can have.
While Jessica has overcome many challenges over the course of her aviation life, one thing she's never had the opportunity to attempt is to get into the cockpit of something anywhere near as large, as fast, or as heavy as an airliner. So when given the opportunity to visit Embry-Riddle University's Bombardier CRJ-200 simulator, Jessica was more than game to get behind the controls and attempt to land the airliner. As a sport pilot, Jessica's flying experience is limited to her single-engine Aircoup, which cruises at just about 90 miles an hour and weighs in at just over 1,000 pounds. When compared to the CRJ-200, a twin-engine airliner weighing about 41,000 pounds and cruising at over 200 knots, this could very well prove to be among Jessica's biggest challenges to date. Accompanied by Embry-Riddle flight instructor Luis Torres, Jessica is given a rapid overview of the airliner's instrumentation. She orients herself to the controls, and in no time she is getting into the sky to see how it handles.
For the yoke, it is a little heavy. It is a little heavy.
It's a lot heavier than I thought.
So,
I'm probably going to need both feet
you can do
with this kind of pressure that I need to pull back
Yeah.
on.
the thrust levers. Like I said, you can push them from the middle. You'll move both.
Got
Okay.
it? If you don't mind if I just experience what it's
No,
like,
sure. You
so
can,
I didn't use both.
That's perfect. There you go. So that'll
Usually I
be
have
both.
my left foot on the throttle, but with this reach over here, I'm going to use my right foot.
Let's do some air work if you want, so that you get used to flying it with the yoke.
Okay.
Okay. So if you press that red button twice. All right. You're flying now.
Okay.
That's telling you that you're flying. You can do some turns if you want.
Yeah.
Wherever you
let's see
wanna
what that's
go.
like. Whoa.
Very easy.
Okay.
If you want to pitch it up and down so you get a feel for how to do it.
Yeah, it is heavier than I thought.
Yeah, it is,
Okay.
it is pretty heavy. Very good. All right, so what do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot involved.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
So if you want, I can tell you what to do with the autopilot so that it gets you on final, and then from
Yes,
there
let's do that.
you can turn it off and we can land it.
Great.
Okay?
It was a quick orientation, there's a lot of new information to retain, and many of the controls are brand new to Jessica. But it's time to see if she's able to land the aircraft.
So let's slow down a bit.
Okay. How much you want me to slow down? Just
Let's slow down to 180 knots. There you go. That's a good position there. That way you're not quite at idle.
Okay.
And as it slows down, passing 200 knots, we're gonna add flaps to 20. That way we don't overspeed the flaps.
Got it.
Right about here is good. Let's do flaps all the way to 20.
20?
There you go. And let's keep it at 180 knots. How about that? So you're gonna have to probably add some power. Not too much.
Okay.
Because right now the plane is descending, following that glide slope for 27 left.
27 left.
If you look outside, we're on
I
the
see
farthest
that.
way to the left. There you go. So that is 27 left.
Okay.
Okay, let's put the gear down. How about that?
Gear here?
Yep. Pull it up
up
and down. There you go. There you go. The gear is down. We're slowing down. Let's do flaps 30. So you have to push down and move it to the.
Oops.
There you
40.
go. There's 30.
There you go, 30.
There's 35. And what I want you to set your speed at is 145 knots. So you're gonna have to push up the power just a bit. Let's do flaps 45 now. Just the last notch of flaps.
45.
Very good. If you look outside, we're looking good.
So you want me to bring this back up?
Look at your speed. You need a little more. Yeah, you need to add some power.
500.
All right, so here we go. Push the power up just a little more. Let's disconnect the autopilot.
Okay, here we go. Press twice.
Uh-huh. Very good. Fly it down.
Fly down.
Very good.
100. Minimums.
Pull it back.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Very good.
Oh, brakes.
Yep. A little bit to the right rudder. A little right
Right rudder.
There you go. Get it back on the line. Not too much. Very nice.
That was awesome.
It's all you.
Oh, wow.
Seeing all that Jessica has managed to accomplish throughout her life without arms, it's not surprising that she's able to generate so much inspiration within people all over the world, giving them confidence and helping them to reinforce the notion that we are greater than the limitations we perceive, and that if you put your mind to something, there's no limit to what can be achieved.
Naturally, everyone has something that keeps them from doing what they would love to do. It does look like it could potentially be intimidating. And I will tell you, when I first walked in that simulator cockpit, it was quite intimidating. If you do something one step at a time, you start progressing and you start building momentum and you eventually get to a point where you're able to accomplish that goal. But you can't let the fear stop you. Just break it down, take it one step at a time, and don't be afraid to do it.
When it comes to aerobatics, you'd be hard-pressed to name a more iconic or influential aircraft than the Pitts Special. In fact, it's not difficult to look at the history of aerobatics in two distinct sections, the years before the Pitts and those following the birth of Curtis Pitts' revolutionary biplane. From the prototypical S1 model to all the variants that followed, the Pitts Special holds more airshow performances and more unlimited aerobatic contest wins in the United States than any other aircraft in history. It has quite literally changed the face of aerobatics, setting a beautiful benchmark for all aerobatic aircraft that follow. In order to learn more about the Pitts, we traveled to the Oshawa Municipal Airport to speak with pilot, instructor, and Pitts owner, Des Lightbody, about his own experience flying this one-of-a-kind aircraft.
I'm Des Lightbody. I'm a commercial multi-IFR pilot, FAA and Transport Canada. I'm also an ABI, which is an aerobatic flight instructor, and this is what I instruct in.
Before his first exposure to the Pitts, Dez's flying experience ranged from float flying to multi-IFR to flying jets. While tracking toward his entry into the airline industry, Des was in the process of building up his flight hours when one fateful day he was offered a flight in the aircraft that would prove to be love at first flight.
I ended up taking a flight in the Pitts and doing some aerobatic stuff, and it was like a light switch. And I've been hooked on it ever since.
It was 1943 when Curtis Pitts began designing his very own aerobatic aircraft, a single-seat, 55-horsepower biplane that would be the first aircraft specifically designed for aerobatics. With its small size, lightweight, short wingspan, and extreme agility, the Pitts S1 set the stage for subsequent variants of the aircraft that would go on to dominate aerobatic competitions throughout the 1960s and 70s. In its early years as an experimental aircraft, the Pitts Special was only available to those who could build it themselves from plans or home-built kits, until the 1970s when Pitts Aerobatics was started in Afton, Wyoming. Around this same time, following the success of the single-seat Pitts, Curtiss was turning his efforts toward a new variant that he'd already had in his mind for years, with which he hoped to open the doors of aerobatics far wider than ever before.
Curtiss Pitts designed it after he won all the competitions with his single seat, and he thought, well, I better design a two-seat trainer so I can train somebody that can compete against me. And that's when he came up with the certified Pitts S2A. It's grown a lot since then, and we still have those competitions today. This is still one of the best trainers on the market to learn.
By having the two-seat S2A trainer type certified, it was Pitts' intention that flight schools would be allowed to use the aircraft, exposing a much wider audience to advanced aerobatics than ever before. Of course, achieving this goal meant the aircraft would need to overcome the challenge of adhering to all the same regulatory requirements that apply to any factory-produced aircraft, while retaining its ability to perform unlimited category aerobatic maneuvers. Ultimately, his goal was met, and the Pitts Special S2A became the first fully certified production aircraft in the Pitts family. One of the key properties that initially set the Pitts apart when compared to the biplanes of the 30s and early 40s was firmly retained in the S2A's trainer model. Namely, it was constructed as a much smaller and a much lighter aircraft than the war-era planes that came before it.
It's about 1,500 is our aerobatic weight. The airplane's gross is 1,575, and this airplane is a fabric airplane. Like I said, it was original fabric. As long as you keep a fabric out of the sun, the fabric will last for many, many years. It's the UV that kills the fabric. Underneath that paint job is a nice silver UV layer that protects the fabric. They basically put a cotton fabric over top of the airplane, makes it tight and light, and then they dope it, and it tightens it up even more. Take a hairdryer to it, put the silver on it, then paint your colors on it, and you have yourself a nice light airplane, very agile. Putting a 200 horsepower engine on the front of it just gives it that get up and go. You're nice and light. Of course, the structure, all the structures there as far as the +6, -3, those are the ribbing and the spruce that they use. The spar can twist and move, whereas a metal spar will twist and snap. That's the difference between wood and metal. So you'll find that an aerobatic aircraft, the newer ones, the monoplanes are a little bit different, but most of the older airplanes, they use the wood to give them that flexibility. So the airplane will come back to its natural shape, design.
When determining the appropriate power plant for the Pitts, Curtiss elected to forgo the concept of a large radial engine altogether, opting instead for a smaller, lighter, horizontally opposed engine. The 200 horsepower produced by Dez's S2A is generated by a Lycoming AIO 360, while the aircraft's propeller offers its pilot an added feature to make flying a bit more straightforward.
The power in this airplane is different than most airplanes because we have a constant speed prop, which means you can set your RPM. Unlike some other trainers out there that you have to watch your redline speeds, it's going to be an on-off button. Power, power off.
While all of these elements enabled the Pitts to perform as intended, in order to fully achieve his vision, Curtiss set out to go a step further by designing an aircraft that could fly upside down just as well as it did right side up. This meant the engine had to be modified with the addition of inverted fuel and oil systems. Furthermore, accomplishing unlimited aerobatics required wings designed with a symmetrical airfoil. As such, the S2A features a wing that is flat, round, and symmetrical in a design which Curtiss himself produced in order to avoid compromising any of the plane's aerobatic capabilities. All of these elements converge to form one of the Pitts' most appealing characteristics. This is an aerobatic aircraft with such a pristine level of responsiveness and adaptability that it will quite literally do exactly what the pilot tells it to at any given moment. While this is a big part of what makes the pits so unique and so special, it speaks equally to why the aircraft requires the utmost respect from the pilot, since, as Des put it, the pits will do exactly what you tell it. This is perhaps best exemplified when looking at what it takes to land the pits, which, when compared to other aircraft, is an animal entirely its own.
If you want to learn how to land a pits, that's a whole nother category. You'll spend a month learning how to land a pits. You won't be doing any aerobatics. You'll be flying around the patch, learning this proper sight picture. You have to bring the airplane on a side slip, we call it, aggressive side slip, so you can see the runway. The second you straighten out, you can no longer see the runway. You're looking over a great big nose, very similar to what the World War II guys said about the Spitfire. Really, the only way to bring this airplane in is we call it a fighter approach. We make our fighter approach, back the power off. We always try not to be out power dependent. Close enough to the airport, we're a little tighter than most airplanes are, and we're looking at the threshold basically, chop the power there and bring it in fighter approach. We're going to side slip it all the way in. Obviously, if the wind is coming from the right, it makes sense for us. We've got a low wing. We're going to hold the center line, slip it in, and we can see the runway all the way down. 85, 90 is your airspeed all the way down. Back and forth, you're looking at your airspeed, you're looking at the runway, you're looking at the windsock, and those are your checkpoints as far as where am I in relation to where I want to be. Altitude and center line of the runway.
Just as it does when controlling the aircraft in flight, when landing the pits, the aircraft will do exactly what you tell it to, and will continue to execute that command until you ask it to do something else. What this means is that when landing the plane, knowing when to do something is just as critical as knowing when to leave the plane alone.
Save some gas in the tank for the landing, because it is an aerobatic maneuver. It's not a joyride. You will need everything you've got to put that airplane on the runway confidently. It's one of the squirreliest airplanes to land. This is in the top 3 of difficulty as far as landing the airplane in the world. You've got your Messerschmitt, of course, is up there, your Spitfire, and then the Pit Special. With the speed you have to come in with this airplane, because it's got a very short, stubby wingspan, and it doesn't have much glide. The tail wheel is a castering tail wheel, and you want to, on your walk around, you want to be very specific that you take a good look at that tail, because that's going to be the first thing that hits the ground. Is even on a 3-point, a lot of times that tail hits first. That's your steering. You break that tail wheel off, and you're just going to ground loop most likely down the runway. So you want to bring the airplane in, land it, and put the stick right to your gut in order to put authority on that tail, to hold that tail wheel down, to give it the friction it's going to need to steer the airplane. The suspension in this aircraft is interesting. It's like a great big rubber band. The suspension will absorb the shock. It's so short coupled, chances are you're going to have a little, we call it making pups, because you hear that little chirping of the tires when you make your first touchdown. And the bungees, the elastics, the suspension of the aircraft is in the front, and it absorbs all that shock. Very robust airplane. Like I said, it was made for training, so very, very robust. It'll take you 100 hours to get proficiently good at it, where you've experienced every scenario.
But a big part of the joy that comes with the Pit Special S2A is taking advantage of exactly what the aircraft was designed for to begin with: training.
I thoroughly enjoy teaching students that come to me for some aerobatic training. I believe it'll make you a better pilot, and often my students walk away with a lot more confidence in what they showed up with.
All 6 seasons of The Aviators, as well as Airboss, are now available for viewing online and on disc. For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv. From Oshkosh, Wisconsin's Whitman Regional Airport, we'll see you next time on The Aviators.